Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Katarina Valentin, and this is Anthony Mattis, and we both play, work, explore energy in all kinds of different forms. And one of the things that we do is we facilitate a class called Opening of the Symphony. And a lot of times in Access Consciousness, somebody will say, "Hey, just follow the energy." And then I can just hear the question is people had, how do I do that? What is it?
Mm,
Like, what the bleep does that mean? So,
mm.
Anthony, why don't you kick it off? What does it mean? What does it mean to follow the energy? And what have you learned, over these years, also facilitating the symphony?
Yeah, well, when you follow the energy, it's a hell of a lot easier when you try to figure it out. When you try to figure things out and figure out what the right choice is and what's the wrong choice. Am I making the correct choice? Um, for me, to me, just to keep it simple, it's sort of like, as we say in the United States, it's like trusting that your gut instinct, where there's not a lot of mental deliberation that goes on. Is you just have a sense of knowing of where you need to go or what you need to choose, but there's not necessarily a reason and justification for it, or not even necessarily like I'm making this choice because there is
Yeah.
no because. You're just making the choice because you are being guided by something that's beyond your mind. And I love when that happens. And I do my very best to function from that space all the time. But, we all have our triggers. We all have our like auto response systems. And
Yeah.
so when fear gets activated, or maybe you see people struggling that we love and are close to us, then I tend to go into savior mode or solution oriented mode and try to figure out what's right for them, and I sort of lose my way with that. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's also like one of the things that I really had to kind of train. I know it sounds weird, but practice is probably a better word. So, practice is to follow the energy even though it didn't make sense, like you were
Right.
saying,
Yep.
and that I couldn't justify it. I couldn't
Yeah.
really explain why I choose something if somebody asked me. I didn't have a reason and justification. And I didn't, like the more I practiced, the less I needed that. I would allow myself to follow. And when I did that, I still do. Like I get a lot of feedback in the way that, oh, it did work out. Like it
Hmm.
did. And that then that became the practice, like to be willing to choose, okay, I'm gonna go here, even though it doesn't make any sense, even though I'm really tired, even though I think I should be staying home, for example, this weekend and not drive around in Sweden. Like
Yeah.
just because I gotta in following that and then noticing, okay, what am I receiving from following the energy? And it's often something very different than you think it is. So
Yeah.
it's not like trying to follow the energy to get from A to B. It's like following the energy just because you get a yes, just for
Right.
that simple lightness, like the whisper, and then see what shows up. Because otherwise we're trying to like order it again. So
Right.
it's like this continuous choice for me. Like, okay, I'm choosing, and then I'm choosing again, and I'm choosing again. So I'd say it's the intuition, like you say, but it's like training yourself to start trusting that again, and then
Hmm.
training it so you hear it more somehow,
Yeah.
and that's a lot more fun, like you
Yeah.
said.
It is. And one of many reasons why I love the tools of access is it's especially from when facilitate, right? Whether we're doing a session, an energetic session, opening of a symphony session with someone, or even body process bars and verbal facilitation, it's easier for me to have that space available. I just go. There's no
Yeah.
like preconceived anything, and it's so awesome. And I'm asking a lot more, like, how can I translate that in my everyday life when that doesn't seem as apparent or obvious, or when people aren't asking for the tools? You know what I mean? And learning how to navigate through this reality, especially again, I always bring it back to like especially with my kids, because that's my biggest thing, where I don't want to see them struggle. And when I do, it activates all the savior stuff as opposed to me just following the energy and allowing them to choose and be on their own journey, no matter how hard it is for me to see as a parent.
But you know that what when you said that, it's really funny in the way that if I would see you, or when I see you facilitate a symphony session, if somebody is struggling or like going through an uncomfortable phase, you would more welcome that. You would go, oh, okay, they're getting to this now, and just being
Right.
so. So it's interesting, like how, because that's one of the things that I really learned from facilitating symphony sessions, is that it doesn't need to be yummy, happy laughter all the time. Sometimes some of the most like amazing sessions have parts of it that actually is like going through something or changing something. There may be tears, and there may be total stillness, or there may be like things that neither none of us, neither the facilitator or the know until the session is over. So it's like with your children, then there is a more of a, a judgment or a investment in the outcome, maybe.
Yeah, it's all of that. Yeah. Judgment, investment in the outcome, everywhere you've decided that, um, especially when they become adults, that you're still somehow responsible for their choices, and yeah, and not letting them fall and having to discover, what's going to work for them in their young lives, you know.
and and that is it. It comes back to, because following the energy, when there's no reason, no justification when you follow the energy. So anytime like there's an investment in the outcome for me, or where I make something matter, where I make
That,
something
yeah.
matter, or
Hmm.
it's significant, or I find it important, or somebody I really care about. Yeah,
Yeah.
family, like all of that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, well, can I really trust this? And I start looking for the reasons and justification, and I get lost in them. So it's
Right.
really, so follow the energy is, for me, it's not, it's beyond logic. It's
Right.
really like trust in
Yeah.
you, in the universe, trusting what doesn't make sense, what you can't
Right.
figure out. And that is like a leap of faith. I think it's very,
Right.
we've learned not to do that. We've learned that we need to have an answer and a reason for nearly
Yeah.
anything we do.
Right. Right. I mean, that's sort of like following the energy is what brought me to Access in the first place. It's like my mind was like, no, don't do it. And
Right.
then, back in the day, you would hear a lot of people that heard this rumor, that rumor, this rumor, and there's all these roadblocks in the very beginning. But I was just following the energy. I can't even tell you that I made the choice from my mind. It was something was sort of always pulling me energetically, and I sort of just like rode that wave like a surfer, and here I am almost 14 years later.
Yeah.
you know
No, same. I had the same, like it wasn't logic that brought me to the access tools at all. It was really kind of against my logic,
yeah, 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 exactly.
reason and justification. And
Yeah.
and it's also this, like we have like when we're willing to take that leap, what I do find though that is so amazing is that the universe continuously gives you clues. Hey, yeah, like it'll show you, yes, if you're willing to leap, I will catch you, I
Yeah.
will do that. And so I find that it's so rewarding to take the leap. And yet
Hmm.
it's like, so it's this catch 22 where when it comes to the things that matter the most, that's when I will use it the least.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, I guess it's easier when I don't, I always want, people who show up to my classes to be satisfied with what they learned, and be able to feel like at least they've acquired some tools to go back to or go forward to their lives, and implement them, and they begin to really perceive their lives changing, not just in the class, but even when they go forward home. And yeah, and but for some reason I'm able to be way more objective
Mm.
with them, and not so much vested in the outcome of whether they choose it or not.
Yeah.
And again, when it's people close to you, you're like, for whatever reason it changes, and it's like, okay, well, what would it take for me to have that allowance, even for my family, and when I do, you helped me the other day, like a few days ago when we talked about our kids, and things that you went through with your daughter and stuff, and really creating that space of allowance, and without trying to fix it,
Mm. Mm.
without, you know, that perpetual. I guess we're going to talk about this on the other call we're going to be doing. So
True.
we're already starting that one.
Families seeping into this.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But yeah, but that's that's my target, to be able to follow the energy with the kids, not the rightness, not what I decided is going to be the best road for them and all that. I went on my journey. My parents didn't influence any of my choices philosophically or spiritually, because they weren't really interested in any of that stuff anyway. And I think I made the false assumption that I would somehow be able to guide them in ways that I wasn't guided before. And
Right. And
and like, no.
no, no. Well, one of the things that you said with the classes that I've been kind of looking at lately is that access is so different from so many other modalities, since access is facilitated by chaos. A lot of
Mm,
other modalities are facilitated by questions, possible, like some of them are, but they're facilitated in kind of more of a, like, I'll acknowledge, I'll
mm-hmm,
like it,
mm-hmm,
which can work too. So it's not about not working, but access specifically is facilitated through inserting chaos and even sometimes havoc in all your points of views, all the conclusions, all the things that you're holding on to keep your
mm-hmm,
life the way it is.
mm-hmm,
So in that, following the energy becomes so vital. And I was
mm-hmm,
just so many times, we both work with Dane here, who is one of the key advanced facilitators in Access Conscious, one of the co-founders. And
mm-hmm.
he'll walk into a class and insert chaos without, he doesn't, like, it's not like he thinks, oh, this is going to go here, or I'll
Right.
be able to move this here. He'll just go in, insert chaos, and then it's like, it always, I worked with him for 15 or 16 years now, and it always magically works out. It always
Mm,
leads to something more miraculous. Even when you go in the middle, you're like, where is this going to go? Like, how is this
yeah.
ever going to get somewhere? And it always does. And that total trust in following the energy is so inspirational and such dynamic way of actually inviting people to something completely different. So it's like
Yeah.
following the energy and somehow is required to following consciousness.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly. Ex-
yeah, letting consciousness take the lead, I guess, is a better way of putting it.
Yeah. 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 It's beautiful what it creates when you do it. It's never failed me. It's never failed me when I've done that.
Which is so funny though, because you're also saying, but in the area where it matters the most, I'm like
Right.
refusing to
Yeah.
say,
It's like, wow. It's like
yeah.
whatever that is. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. And I wonder, I'm just looking here, see if any, I'm looking at the questions. So if you guys, I would
mm,
just wanted to see if there was some questions here. No, just comments about, yeah, well, but I do get that this particular, with following the energy, one of the things that I watch you I watch you give sessions to Gary and Dane, symphony
mhm,
sessions, which is an energetic modality where you really work with energy you can't see. you you
yeah.
don't have um you don't know, like you can't logically figure out what's going on. So how did you learn to trust that? Because I see you trust the way you move energy and the way you work with energy
Mm.
so much in those.
Time. That was just that came from time. It helps. This is not necessarily access speak, but I'm just going to speak, plainly.
Well, that's bad. Don't do
I love it.
that.
Every time I create space, my kids start calling me. No, but this wasn't something that I thought I can do, you know what I mean? Or that it was sort of like a class I needed to take to become a certified facilitator, the Symphony of Possibilities class, where we do this like weird, you
Yeah.
know, energy work, not on people's bodies, actually like working on their energy bodies or their beings, And so it helped to have Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, say, "Hey, there's something you have with this, and I'd like to help you. I'd like to help you develop it. And and Dane was agreeable in that way too, and they both really mentored me, over the last 14 years or 13 and a half years, and working on them private.
I lost you. Are you back?
Sorry, working on them privately. Yeah, sorry, working on them privately opened up my universes, like opened up universes in my world where I was like, oh my God, like, and there are really no words for it. And so what started to happen over time was I started to have, as I started to access these spaces, um, it started to become part of me. But it
Mm,
was always part of me. I was just
yeah,
becoming conscious of it for the
yeah.
first time. And it resonated, not resonated, it sort of reminded me of the things I used to dream about as a child, and a lot of the movies I used to watch, like Star Wars, and learning about the Force, and wanting that to be so real and true in my everyday life. And it's got to be possible to be able to access these types of energies, and like all of a sudden now it's happening in real life. It's really cool. And there's so much more. I mean, we're just barely scratching the surface with all of it. And so I don't know, that came with time and practice, but it helped to have the guys believe in me. I mean, I can't, it's like if it wasn't for that, I don't know that I would be here right now.
Well, and it also reminds me of this, like we're talking about following the energy kind of more in specific choices, but if we look at that broader picture that you're talking about, like you knew to follow the energy because it reminded you of something. And I have the same, like it reminded me of the
Yeah.
energy that was possible when I was little that I dreamed of. And even actually, I'd say like I really asked for, nearly prayed for in some strange way, like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
possibility of this. So that is also part of following the energy instead of trying to figure out your way forward into the future, really like, okay, is this the energy? Does this energy remind me of what I've been asking for? Is
Yeah.
this energy, like, go for that? If something shows up
Right.
that seems completely illogical, but it reminds you of energy that
That's right.
you're looking for, go for that. And that's part of following the energy if we look at it like more broader. And that, I
Yeah.
think that brought us both to this kind of work, that we were willing to actually follow the energy even when it didn't make sense, and then continue to do that even when it's parts of time when it's been harder to do that,
Yeah.
like when it's
Yeah.
been, yeah. So
Well, I liked how you said, you actually kind of prayed about it, because I did that. I had just gotten out of the church after 5.5, 6 years of being very engrossed in that whole thing. And I remember praying to God. I'm like, I need, because I studied so many different healing techniques and modalities, and I'm like, look, I'm gonna have to go outside the box again, because whatever I've been doing, the I guess that would have been, I don't know, it's almost 30 years, so I would say 14 years in Access, and then whatever the 15 years before, like,
mhm.
it's not working. It's not, my wife committed suicide, we've done everything, we've had gurus, we were in church, and I'm going outside the box, and then Access Consciousness showed up, and my mind was like, the people in church are going to judge you, Christians are going to judge you, they're going to be like, this is not from God, this is of the occult, or you're going to let demons in, and all these voices of my awarenesses of other people's points of view were flooding into my mind, right? But again, I followed the energy.
Mm.
And and when I have Christians challenge me today, because I do live in the Bible Belt in South Carolina, I mean, and I do have my daughter's friends' parents stalk me literally on Instagram, and they see the classes I facilitate, and some of them are terrified. They don't want their kids hanging out with my kids. Like somehow I'm like some witch or, warlock or something, and I'm going to corrupt their children. It's really interesting. And so, right? So had I been led by my mind, I would have been like, no.
Yeah.
But to me, it was a prayer answered. And that's what I say to these people. I'm like, you know what? God brought me these tools. So I'm sorry it doesn't fit your paradigm, but this was an answered prayer for me.
Mm,
So, and that
that's
was following the energy, because, and I always, I always made other people's points of view more valuable than my awareness, always, until access.
And that's also like really part of this, like following the energy. You just can't make other people's points of views more valuable than your own awareness, because then you won't be able to hear the whispers, and you won't be willing to choose to go somewhere, because you can already perceive all their judgments coming at you. And
Totally.
so absolutely. Okay. This is so big, we could go on forever, but
Yeah, we could talk
I
about it
think
for 3 days.
I think that, but I think we're gonna kind of round up. There was a question. There was somebody asking about the bars, in the thread, and I just want to say that the bars, like learning the bars, is a 1 day class. You can do it. There's classes all over the world. If you want to go on the website, you can find a bars class and learn the bars points, and then you can run it. You can swap with people. So that's Harshita, who I see your name there again, and you're asking. So just go on and look on our website, accessconsciousness.com/bars, and you'll find a lot of more info about the bars, and then you can learn bars. And bars, definitely, once you have your bars run, it'll be way easier to follow the energy, because
Yeah.
bars actually allows you to let go a lot of your decisions, conclusions, judgment, limitations, thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you actually keep between you and the energy that could guide you if you just
Hmm.
let it.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly right. It gets you out of your monkey mind so you can get
Yeah,
clear about what you would like to choose.
yeah, that. So, what should we end by? Do you have a good question that they can go and play with?
Um, well, if I was truly choosing my own reality with
Mm,
whatever it is, what would I choose? Because at least that question temporarily it pushes out your awarenesses of everybody else's points of view around whatever it is that you're trying, whether it's money, you're starting a business, who to marry, who to not marry, who to divorce, not divorce, all these different things. When you're like, okay, if I was having my reality, what would I choose? What's my reality with this? Not my parents, not my religions, not my cultures, not my friends. Like, what's my reality with this? Okay,
and
and allow yourself to follow that piece. And a lot of times it's a whisper because everybody else's points of view are way louder than those whispers of consciousness sometimes. A lot of times.
then you can also add it to that. You can add this question of, okay, if I didn't have to justify my choice to anyone right
Mm,
now,
yeah,
what would I choose? If I didn't have
right.
to justify my choice to anyone right now, what would I choose? And then you don't even have to choose it, but it'll give you the awareness of, what do you actually have the sense to choose in this moment? And it is a practice. It really is like you retrain yourself from having to justify and explain and conclude and compute everything. And I spent
Mm-hmm.
most of my life computing and figuring things out. So I so know that setting, that program. And it's, once I started to give that program up, my life is so much more fun and
Yeah,
so much more amazing. So, yeah,
awesome.
play with it. And thank you so much, Anthony, for coming.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Great conversation.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.